Hello there gorgeous gamers, and welcome back to Pure Play TV, and we've got another review for you. This time it's Vanishing Grace for the Oculus Quest. This review comes from our network site Pure PSVR, which covers all VR, and a review code was provided by the publisher. The first thing I noticed in Vanishing Grace was the striking art style. While I admit that photorealistic graphics are great, not to mention terrifyingly immersive in games like Half-Life Alyx, but there is something magical about stepping into a beautifully hand-drawn 3D world like Vanishing Grace, even if most of this 3D world is confined to a single ramshackle hovercraft. You play as Joel, a young man who has spent his life isolated from the rest of the world in a place called the Citadel. A solar storm devastated Earth back in 1993, leaving it uninhabitable, except for the Citadel. Joel's lifelong buddy, Grace, has reason to believe the government of the Citadel is hiding something. It doesn't take long to learn that Grace suffers from a mean case of wanderlust and harbours serious distrust for authority figures. Using her engineering skills, Grace builds the aforementioned hovercraft and sets sail into the desert in search for answers. Months later, Grace's ship returns to the Citadel, but she's not on it, and this leaves Joel no choice but to go after her. We learn in a very early scene that Joel is married, and not to Grace. To make matters worse, he and his wife Elena have a baby on the way, and as you might imagine, she is not happy that Joel is risking his life to go after his dear old friend. Jealous girlfriend. Vanishing Grace managed to subvert my expectations in two ways, but unfortunately, only one of them was in a good way. Let's start with the good. The small team at Monte Perdido very clearly put their focus on the game's story. The writing, which is almost all with dialogue, is realistic and delivered in a way that has always rung true to my ear. Even when it threatened to venture into the heavy-handedness, they managed to reel it back in before it was too late. But as always, good dialogue is only as good as the actor reading the lines, and in this case, they did a great job. The game features the voices of veteran actors from Firewatch, Wolfenstein 2, and Batman: The Telltale series, and each line is delivered with conviction, and it really sold me on the story. I was really invested, and I couldn't wait to see how this story was going to play out. The other subverted expectation was not good. From the early promos and comparisons to Far Lone sales, I was expecting to be constantly putting out fires, managing overheating engines, and repairing ship breakdowns with the power tools lying around the ship. And I did do all of those things, but only once. This is, oddly, my biggest complaint about the game, and it ties into my second complaint. It's only about 2 hours long. I think that if they'd added the need to race around the ship to fix leaking pipes or broken solar power generators while solving the puzzles that otherwise make up the gameplay, it would have been a bit more satisfying and a bit longer. But that's just me. I've always liked fixing things, and those types of management sims where you fix stuff have always brought me a strange sense of satisfaction. The game ran fairly smoothly, but I did need to switch to teleport movement during one section in Chapter 6, when I couldn't cross the threshold into the ship from the deck. Weird. The game also crashed once while I was collecting some footage, and I don't know if it was because I was recording or not, but thankfully that was the one and only crash, despite recording and even occasionally streaming gameplay to my TV. The ship that you call home is incredibly cool. Like any good camper, it has a bathroom, a bedroom, a workstation, and a fully functional control room. Each of the rooms is full of life and interesting things, but you can only interact with the things that make sense for the certain puzzle that you're trying to solve. For instance, the 3D printer or blowtorch you need to solve one puzzle can no longer be interacted with for the next. This design choice acts as a clue to the current puzzle, sure, but it ultimately harms the game because it just reminds you that you're not in a real world. It's a shame too, because otherwise Grace's little ship is the perfect ride to take on a road trip through the end of the world. I mean, you can stand out on the front deck and toss a boomerang at your leisure. What's not to love about that? And why are there not more boomerangs in VR games? It wasn't the puzzles that kept me going through to the end of the game, nor was it the 3 times you actually get to set foot off the ship to investigate some ancient ruins like a 90s gas station. These were weird fetch quests in a world that had remarkably little to offer. Instead, what kept me going on was the physical and emotional journey of the two main characters, and the mostly sad love triangle between Joel, his expecting wife Elena, and Joel's first, and probably true love, Grace. I'm not sure how I feel about the ending, but it probably ended the way it should have. The real problem I had with the ending was how fast I got there. At maybe 2 hours, it's not a long journey, but it was a good one, and one I'm glad I got to take. And that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please share the love by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Also, don't forget the bell icon, that way you're notified whenever we have a new video for you to watch. And if you go down to the info box below, you'll find our social channels and our supporters page, if you feel like throwing some bones our way. I've been Chris, and if I don't vanish, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, bye bye.